Are you ready?
Yeah.
About 300 and 300.
Join the gang and let the bidding begin.
This is why we do this.
Storage wars shocked fans for years with wild finds, but in 2025, the drama is getting darker. Some of the members that were popular among fans are now nowhere in the limelight.
Hey, say it. How much? Yeah. 115, 115 bucks. 125, 115, 135, Mary. 145, sir. 135 there.
Come on, for security! Stop!
Some of the members left this world, and some are behind the bars for their own wild ambitions. Let's explore Storage Wars members who are dead or in jail. In 2025, Mark Balelo. So let's start with Mark Balelo. Remember him? The guy who always wore those designer clothes to the auctions? Everyone called him Rico Suave because of how he dressed. Dude was actually pretty successful. Ran his own business called Balelo Incorporated. Had a store where he sold all his auction finds. But here's where it gets dark. Really dark. In January 2013, Mark got arrested for drug possession. Methamphetamine, to be specific. Now, I don't know if you've ever known anyone who's dealt with meth, but that stuff destroys lives faster than you can imagine. The cops found him with it, arrested him, and he posted bail. 2 days later, just 2 days, his girlfriend found him dead in his car. Carbon monoxide poisoning. He'd driven to his auction house, closed the garage door, and left the engine running. The guy was only 40 years old. 40. He had his whole life ahead of him. What really gets me about Mark's story is that everyone who knew him said he was struggling with the pressure. The show brought him fame, sure, but it also brought scrutiny. Every move he made was watched. Every mistake was amplified. And when you're already dealing with addiction issues, that pressure becomes unbearable. His employees found him first, actually. Can you imagine? Coming to work and finding your boss like that. The trauma those people must have gone through. And his girlfriend? She'd been with him through everything. She was the one who had to identify the body. I can't even imagine. Gunter Nooda. Then there's Gunter Nooda. This one hits differently because Gunter seemed like he had it all together. Him and his son Renee were like the dream team on the show. They had this amazing father-son dynamic that everyone loved watching. Gunter was the kind of guy who'd been in the storage auction business forever. Way before the show made it cool, he knew his stuff and could spot valuable items from across the room. The man had an eye for antiques that was just incredible. But in March 2023, Gunter started feeling sick. Just thought it was the flu at first, you know? We all do that, ignore the symptoms, hope they'll go away. But they didn't go away. They got worse. Turns out he had lung cancer. And not just any lung cancer, the aggressive kind that spreads fast. By the time they caught it, it was already too late. The doctors gave him months. He got weeks. Gunter died surrounded by his family, which I guess is the best you can hope for in that situation. But man, 67 years old. That's not old anymore. My dad's 70 and still plays golf 3 times a week. Gunter should have had more time. His son Renee posted about it on social media. And the comments, thousands of people sharing memories of meeting Gunter at auctions, at the store. He touched so many lives, and now he's just gone. Dave Hester. Dave Hester. Oh boy, where do I even start with Dave? The yup guy. You either loved him or hated him, no in between. He was the villain of the show, the guy who'd bid up lockers just to mess with other buyers. But Dave's story after Storage Wars is basically one long legal nightmare. First, he sued A&E and the production company in 2012, claiming the show was rigged. Said they planted valuable items in lockers. Gave certain cast members information about what was inside before bidding. The lawsuit dragged on for years. We're talking depositions, court hearings, millions in legal fees. Dave claimed they fired him for complaining about the fake stuff. The network fought back hard. Eventually, they settled out of court, but nobody really won. Then came the financial problems. See, when you're spending all your money on lawyers, your business suffers. Dave's auction house started struggling. He had to lay off employees. The IRS came knocking about back taxes. And it just kept getting worse. More lawsuits, this time people suing him. Former business partners, employees claiming unpaid wages. His reputation in the storage auction community was completely destroyed. Nobody wanted to work with him anymore. Last I heard, Dave was still doing auctions, but on a much smaller scale. He posts on social media sometimes, trying to sell stuff online. It's actually kind of sad seeing him hustle for small sales when he used to be on national TV making thousands per episode. Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss was different from everyone else on Storage Wars. He wasn't there because he needed the money. The guy was already loaded from his produce business that he'd sold years before. He collected storage units like some people collect stamps. It was a hobby, a game, something fun to do on weekends. That's what made Barry so damn entertaining. He'd show up to auctions in a different crazy vehicle every time. One day it's a vintage Cadillac. Next time it's some custom chopper. Then he rolls up in a freaking Sherman tank. I'm not kidding, an actual tank. The producers loved him because he was unpredictable. Never knew what Barry would say or do next. He had this whole persona, the collector. Wore those skeleton gloves, had the gray hair slicked back, always cracking jokes. Women loved him. Dudes wanted to be him. He was living the dream, honestly. Retired, wealthy, spending his days treasure hunting for fun while getting paid to be on TV. But here's the thing about Barry that most people didn't know. He was a legitimate motorcycle enthusiast. Not just for show, the man had been riding since he was 16. Had a collection of bikes worth more than most people's houses. Harleys, Indians, custom builds you wouldn't believe. He knew every bolt, every gear, every piece of chrome on those machines. So when April 2019 rolled around, Barry was out doing what he loved. Beautiful day in Los Angeles, cruising down the road on his bike. He wasn't filming, wasn't heading to an auction, just out for a ride, feeling the wind, living his life. Then some car pulled out of a parking lot without looking. Didn't even see Barry coming. No time to brake, no time to swerve, nothing. The impact was devastating. Witnesses said the sound was like a bomb going off. Metal crushing, glass exploding, Barry's body flying through the air like a rag doll. The paramedics thought he was dead when they arrived. I heard this from someone who was there. Said Barry wasn't moving, wasn't breathing right. They had to cut his clothes off right there on the street. Blood everywhere. His left leg was bent in a way legs aren't supposed to bend. His chest was crushed. Internal bleeding they couldn't even see yet. They airlifted him to the trauma center. Airlifted. That's when you know it's bad. His family rushed to the hospital not knowing if he'd be alive when they got there. 9 hours of surgery. 9 hours. They had to put his insides back together like a jigsaw puzzle. Broken ribs, punctured lung, ruptured spleen, fractured spine, shattered femur. The list of injuries took up 2 pages of medical charts. He was in a coma for a week, a whole week where nobody knew if he'd wake up, and if he did, what kind of condition he'd be in. Brain damage was a real possibility. Paralysis was on the table. His family was preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. When Barry finally woke up, he couldn't remember the accident. Still can't. Last thing he remembers is leaving his house that morning. The crash, the pain, the helicopter ride, all gone. Maybe that's a blessing, honestly. But waking up, was just the beginning of the nightmare. 2 months in the hospital. 2 months. Learning to breathe without machines. Learning to move without screaming in pain. The physical therapy was torture. They had to teach him to walk again. A 71-year-old man having to learn to walk like a toddler. And the bikes? Doctors said never again. Barry Weiss, the guy who lived on motorcycles, who defined himself by his rides, could never touch one again. Too risky. Another accident would kill him for sure. Can you imagine having your identity, your passion, your freedom taken away like that? He tried to stay positive publicly, posted some updates thanking fans for support. But people who know him say he's different now, quieter. The spark is gone. He walks with a limp that'll never go away, has pain every single day, takes a pharmacy worth of pills just to function. The financial hit was massive too. Medical bills in the millions. Millions! Yeah, he had insurance, but you know how that goes. They don't cover everything. Experimental treatments, special therapies, home modifications for his mobility issues. It adds up fast. And here's something that really pisses me off. The driver who hit him got a ticket for unsafe lane change. That's it, a ticket. Barry's life is destroyed, and this person got the equivalent of a parking violation. The justice system is a joke sometimes. Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett was supposed to be the future of Storage Wars. Young guy, maybe 35 when he joined the show, full of energy and ambition. They called him the Liquidator because he could move merchandise faster than anyone. While other buyers were still sorting through their units, Jeff had already sold half his stuff. He wasn't like the older guys who'd been doing this forever. Jeff represented the new generation. Tech-savvy, used social media to move products, had an online store before everyone else figured out that was the way to go. Smart kid? Really smart. Jeff had this aggressive bidding style that made for great TV. He'd go toe-to-toe with Dave Hester and wouldn't back down from anyone. There was this one episode where he spent $8,000 on a unit everyone thought was trash. Turned out to have vintage guitars worth $30,000. That was Jeff, willing to take the big risks for the big rewards. Off camera, Jeff was different. Married his high school sweetheart, had 2 kids, lived in a regular suburban house despite making good money. He was saving everything, investing, and planning for the future. Wanted to build an empire, not just make quick cash. The guy worked insane hours though. Storage auctions in the morning, running his warehouse in the afternoon, online sales at night. 7 days a week, no breaks, no vacations. His wife used to joke that she had to make appointments to see her own husband. But that was Jeff, always grinding, always pushing. I remember seeing him at an auction once. This was after the show ended. He was still going hard, bidding on everything, talking a mile a minute, making deals on his phone while bidding on units. The energy was unreal. Made everyone else look like they were moving in slow motion. Then came that night in November 2020. Jeff was driving home from an auction in Riverside. Long day, probably exhausted, but that was nothing new. He'd driven that route 100 times. Highway 91, same exit, same streets to his house. But something was wrong. Jeff felt this pressure in his head, like someone was inflating a balloon inside his skull. Then the vision in his left eye went blurry. His left hand started tingling. He knew something was seriously wrong, but thought maybe he could make it home. Typical Jeff, trying to power through. The headache hit like a sledgehammer. Sudden, overwhelming, the worst pain he'd ever felt. He managed to pull over to the shoulder just before his left side went completely numb. Somehow, he managed to call 911 with his right hand while half his body wasn't working. The 911 call is heartbreaking if you ever hear it. Jeff tries to explain where he is, but his words are slurring. The operator tried to keep him calm while sending paramedics. Him asking if he's dying. The operator saying, "Help is coming," but you can hear the urgency in her voice. Hemorrhagic stroke. Blood vessel in his brain just burst. At 35 years old. No warning signs, no previous health issues. Doctors said later it was probably a weakness he'd had since birth, just waiting to blow. The stress, the lack of sleep, the constant pressure of his lifestyle, it all contributed but wasn't the direct cause. Just horrible luck. The damage was extensive. The blood flooding into his brain tissue destroyed millions of neurons. Left side paralysis, speech center damaged, memory problems, executive function impaired. The Jeff who went into that hospital wasn't the same Jeff who came out 6 weeks later. Physical therapy was a nightmare. Try to imagine being 35, in the prime of your life, and suddenly you can't tie your shoes, can't write your name, can't hold your kids because your left arm doesn't work and your balance is shot. Jeff went from being the fastest mover in the storage auction business to needing help getting dressed. The speech therapy was even worse in some ways. Jeff's whole career was based on talking, negotiating, and making deals. Now he couldn't get through a sentence without stumbling. Words he knew were just gone, couldn't access them. He'd try to say table and chair would come out. The frustration was unbearable. His kids didn't understand why Daddy was different. The younger one, only 4 at the time, was scared of him at first. Didn't recognize this slow-moving, slow-talking version of her father. That broke Jeff more than any of the physical stuff. The business collapsed almost immediately. Can't run a liquidation company when you can't drive, can't lift boxes, can't negotiate deals. His employees tried to keep things going, but without Jeff's energy and connections, it fell apart. Within 3 months, he had to close everything down, sell the warehouse, liquidate the inventory, let everyone go. The medical bills were astronomical. Even with insurance, the out-of-pocket costs were crushing. Specialized therapists, experimental treatments, modifications to the house for wheelchair access. His wife had to quit her job to become his full-time caregiver. Going from 2 incomes to 0, while expenses exploded. They set up a GoFundMe. Help Jeff Jared recover from stroke. Raised $8,000. That's it. $8,000 for a guy who was on national television, who entertained millions. Barely covered a month of therapy. People had already moved on to the next show, the next drama. Now, Jeff posts videos sometimes, trying to document his recovery. They're hard to watch. This vibrant, energetic guy struggles to walk across a room, celebrating tiny victories like being able to hold a cup with his left hand. Reading comments from people who don't even remember he was on Storage Wars. His wife is a saint, honestly. Stood by him through everything, but you can see the exhaustion in her eyes in recent photos. Being a caregiver to someone with stroke damage is a 24/7 job. No breaks, no time off, watching the person you love struggle with basic tasks every single day. The hidden casualties. But here's what really gets me. It's not just the main cast members who suffered. It's their families, their employees, their communities. Mark Balelo's business employed 12 people. When he died, they all lost their jobs overnight. No severance, no warning. Just showed up to work one day and found out their boss was dead and the business was shutting down. Gunter's store, Bargain Hunter's Thrift, was a landmark in Poway. People drove from hours away to shop there. When he got sick, they tried to keep it running, but it wasn't the same without him. Closed 6 months after he died. Another empty storefront in a struggling strip mall. Dave Hester's son was working with him, learning the business. Now, kid wants nothing to do with storage auctions. Changed his name on social media so people won't connect him to his father. Imagine having to distance yourself from your own dad because his reputation is that toxic. Barry's girlfriend was in the motorcycle accident too. Doesn't get mentioned much, but she broke her back. Still in physical therapy 3 years later, their relationship didn't survive the trauma. 30 years together, gone. Jeff Jared's kids had to change schools because of the bullying. Other kids making fun of their dad's speech problems, imitating his difficulties walking. Kids are cruel, man. His daughter developed an eating disorder from the stress. Sons started getting into fights. Nicholas Elkin's mother had to sell her house to pay for his legal defense. 73 years old, living in a one-bedroom apartment. Now because she spent her retirement savings trying to keep her son out of prison. Didn't even work. The death of an industry. And it's not just the people. The entire storage auction industry got destroyed by this show. Before the storage wars, storage auctions were small, local affairs. Maybe 10 to 15 people would show up. You'd recognize everyone. There was an unspoken code. You didn't bid up newbies too hard. You helped each other out with moving heavy stuff. You shared information about upcoming auctions. Then the show hit, and suddenly every auction had 200 people. Soccer moms with $1,000 budgets thinking they'd find treasure. College kids pooling their money, hoping to get lucky. Dealers from out of state driving in with trucks and trailers. Prices went through the roof. Units that used to sell for $50 were going for $500. The old-timers, the people who'd been doing this for decades and depended on it for their livelihood, they got priced out. Couldn't compete with people who didn't care if they lost money because they just wanted to say, they bought a storage unit like on TV. I talked to a guy who'd been doing storage auctions since the 80s. He said storage wars killed his business in less than a year. Had to close his thrift shop, sell his truck, and take a job at Walmart at 58 years old. All because a reality show made his profession trendy. The auctioneers initially loved it. More buyers meant higher commissions. But then they realized these new buyers didn't know what they were doing. They'd win units and abandon them. Not pay. Cause problems. What used to be a smooth professional process became a circus. Storage facilities started changing their rules. Some stopped doing public auctions altogether, just threw everything away rather than deal with the chaos. Others jacked up their fees, required deposits, and implemented background checks, made it harder for everyone. Where are they now? The survivors. So what about the ones who are still alive? Where are they now? Daryl Sheets, the gambler, had a mild heart attack in 2018. Scaled way back on auctions. Posts on Instagram sometimes, mostly pictures of his grandkids. Seems happy, but you can tell the years have taken their toll. Brandy Passante and Jared Schultz broke up years ago. Nasty split. Domestic violence charges. Custody battle over their kids. Brandy's doing okay, has her own business now, stays away from storage auctions. Jared? Not so much. Multiple arrests, bar fights, DUIs. Classic downward spiral. Ivy Calvin, the king of Palmdale? He's actually doing all right. One of the few success stories. Still does auctions, but diversified into real estate. Smart move. But even he admits the show changed everything and not for the better. Renee Nazoda. Still running the store after his dad died, but it's hard. Every day he's there is a reminder of what he lost. Customers still ask about Gunter. He has to relive it over and over. Mary Pedian? Moved back to Texas. Doesn't do storage auctions anymore. Has an online vintage shop, but it's small scale. She's talked about how the show gave her anxiety issues she's still dealing with. The real cost of reality TV fame. Here's what people don't understand about reality TV fame. It's not real fame. You're famous enough that everyone recognizes you at the grocery store, but not famous enough to have money or security or handlers to deal with it. These Storage Wars people? They were making maybe $15,000 an episode. Sounds like good money until you realize they only filmed 20-something episodes a year. After taxes, that's maybe $200,000. Good money, sure, but not set-for-life money. Not hire security and move to a gated community money. But the public doesn't know that. They see you on TV and assume you're rich. Every distant relative comes asking for loans. Every friend has a business opportunity. Everyone wants something from you. And when the show ends, the money stops, but the recognition doesn't. You're still that guy from Storage Wars, but now you're broke and trying to go back to your regular life. Except your regular life doesn't exist anymore because the show destroyed it. The mental health toll is insane. Several cast members have talked about depression, anxiety, and panic attacks. The pressure of being on TV, of having every mistake broadcast to millions, of dealing with fans and haters online, it breaks people. And there's no support system. The production company? They moved on to the next show. The network? You're yesterday's news. Your castmates? They're dealing with their own problems. You're alone with your fame and your problems and your rapidly dwindling bank account. The auctions today, a ghost town. I went to a storage auction last month. First one I'd been to in years. Want to know how many people showed up? 7. 7. And 3 of them were together. The auctioneer looked tired. Said he's thinking about retiring. Not enough money in it anymore. The facilities prefer online auctions now. Less hassle, no crowds, no drama. The units went cheap. Stuff that would have caused bidding wars during the Storage Wars peak went for an opening bid, but nobody was excited. It was just sad, like visiting a dying mall or an abandoned amusement park. One old-timer told me he missed the chaos sometimes. At least when the show was big, there was energy. Now, it's just a bunch of old guys trying to make a living from other people's abandoned dreams. The storage facilities themselves have changed. Higher security, more rules, faster turnover. They don't want another Storage Wars situation. They want people to pay their bills or get out. No more treasure hunting. No more dreams of finding that one amazing locker. The lessons nobody learned. What kills me is that nobody learned anything from this. There are new storage auction shows popping up on streaming services. New people thinking they'll strike it rich. New viewers believe it's all real. The cycle continues. Some new faces will get famous for bidding on storage units. They'll make some money, lose their privacy, probably develop a substance abuse problem, and end up worse than when they started. Rinse and repeat. Because here's the truth about reality TV, it's not designed to make the participants successful. It's designed to make the producers and networks money. The people on screen, they're disposable. Use them up, throw them away, find new ones. Storage Wars made A&E hundreds of millions of dollars. The cast members? Most of them would have been better off never being on the show. That's the real tragedy here. These people thought they were getting their big break. Instead, they got broken. The final verdict. So here's my question to you. Was it worth it? Was the entertainment value of Storage Wars worth destroying these people's lives? Worth killing an entire industry? Worth all the pain and suffering and death? I used to love the show. Watched every episode. Bought the merchandise. Hell, I even went to a few auctions hoping to see the cast members. I was part of the problem. But now, knowing what I know, seeing what happened to these people, I can't watch it anymore. Can't even watch the reruns. Because every time I see Mark Balelo bidding on a unit, I think about him dying alone in his car. Every time I see Gunter examining an antique, I think about the cancer eating away at him. Every time I hear Dave yell, "Yup!" I think about the years of lawsuits and financial ruin. Reality TV promises regular people a chance at fame and fortune. What it delivers is exploitation and destruction. Storage Wars is just one example, but look at any reality show and you'll find similar stories. Broken families, ruined lives, suicides, addiction, bankruptcy. We need to stop treating real people like entertainment. These aren't characters in a scripted drama. They're human beings with families and feelings and futures that can be destroyed by our need to be entertained. If this story shocked you, share it now. People need to know what really happened to these Storage Wars stars. Subscribe for more untold stories about reality TV's darkest secrets.